For a roundtable discussion of this issue, listen to episode 542 of the Lantern Cast, link in the description. Okay everybody, get comfortable because we're about to talk about an issue that has two moments where I turned the page and my mind was blown. Once for art and once for a character reveal. So let's get right into it. Green Lantern number 6 is written by Jeremy Adams, with art by Zermanico and Scott Godlewski, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., and letters by Dave Sharp. The title of this issue is The Will to Rage. Hal and Sinestro's battle has begun, and Sinestro isn't holding anything back. Both the Bat family and the Superman family notice the explosive energy erupting from the Arizona desert, but all they can do is watch. Superboy says that the intense light of the emotional spectrum makes it hard to think, which makes sense. If you're not used to it, exposure to that much raw emotion should probably make it difficult to think clearly. Superman even connects that idea to the fact that lanterns have been able to make kryptonite in the past. It works well enough, and most importantly, it's a nice excuse for why the other heroes on Earth aren't showing up to help. Though that isn't going to stop the US military from trying, as the general at Ferris Aircraft calls in a squadron of fighter jets to attack Sinestro's location. And honestly, good luck to them. Sinestro is fighting like a wild animal, swiping in every direction with lethal constructs. He doesn't have a plan, he's just lashing out and hoping he hits something. Sinestro's power and fury seem bottomless, and Hal is having trouble keeping up. His green constructs aren't even making a dent, and Sinestro isn't slowing down. I know I keep bringing this up, but I kinda have to. Everything going on with Sinestro feels like they're trying to build on significant psychological and emotional trauma that we just never saw the character experience in the first place, and that severely undercuts what's happening in this issue. Sinestro's outburst of rage is supposed to feel like a massive release for everything he's been holding inside for all this time, but it's coming out of nowhere, because all of the things that enraged him happened off-panel. Hal mentions that this isn't like Sinestro, that he's always so calm and in control, and honestly, that's enough of a justification for this explosion of rage. Sinestro's been holding himself in check for such a long time, and he finally reached a breaking point just in time for the emotional spectrum to be in an unpredictable state that gives him access to Red Lantern powers. A lifetime of repression boiling over at exactly the wrong moment. It makes sense and is all you really need. The fighter jets show up and manage to get one direct hit with a missile, which knocks Sinestro down and, you guessed it, makes him angrier. He decides to destroy the entire squadron at the same time. And remember that jaw-dropping art I mentioned at the beginning of the video? Here it is. This is the shot you want in every Godzilla trailer. This is the most viciously ferocious construct I think I've ever seen a lantern make. Everything about the presentation of this creature is incredible. The deep red of the construct being lit yellow on one side by the rising sun. The sheer size of it compared to the jets, which it can swallow in one bite. It's so big and imposing that it can't even fit in a double-page spread, and it looks so otherworldly, like it doesn't even belong in the same reality as those man-made fighter jets, which it's grabbing with the gross appendages coming off of its tongue. The idea of presenting the construct in a different art style from everything else is perfect, and it feels like reality is being swallowed up by something other. I unfortunately have to balance my praise of that image with a complaint about something that really bothers me about this book: the backgrounds. There are 3 ways this issue does backgrounds. One is by traditionally drawing them, another is to just use blurry and distorted photographs of real places, and the last way is to leave the backgrounds totally blank except for 1 or 2 colors and maybe some speed lines. The ones that are actually drawn look good. The blurry photographs look okay, I guess. I understand the effect they were going for, but I'd rather not have them. But the blank backgrounds just leave us with panels that are mostly empty, and it makes the whole book feel rushed. And what's worse is that this whole fight scene constantly switches between all 3 of these types of backgrounds, and it's an incredibly jarring change every time. Part of me wants to applaud them for experimenting like this, since both the blurry photos and the blank panels with speed lines can be effective ways to convey an object moving at high speed, but the end result just does not come together into something cohesive. It's too many different parts that don't fit together. Sinestro's giant construct is continuing to rampage, but suddenly Hal notices something. His ring feels different, like it's overflowing with power. Something is supercharging Hal's ring, and he doesn't understand it, but he's also not going to waste this opportunity to stop Sinestro in his tracks. He makes a gigantic anime robot that would make Kyle Rayner proud, and then we get a 2-page fight that makes the Power Rangers fan in me very happy. Hal makes a comment about the giant robot being inspired by movies he's seen, and between this and Night Terrors, I am very curious to know what Jeremy Adams thinks Hal Jordan's movie library would look like. Hal has managed to fight Sinestro to a standstill, but while Sinestro is still overflowing with power and ready to keep fighting, Hal feels totally wiped out. All his extra power has been spent, and there's nothing he can do to stop Sinestro from flying off into space to wreak untold havoc on his homeworld of Corrigar. Hal tries to stop Sinestro, but once again he runs into the ring's altitude limit and can't pursue as Sinestro escapes into space. Hal saved the Earth from most of the damage Sinestro could have caused, but there's nothing he can do to stop Sinestro from rampaging across the rest of the universe. Hal goes back to his trailer outside of Coast City and is greeted by Killawog. But someone else is there too. Remember the second mind-blowing moment I talked about? Well, here's Razor from Green Lantern the Animated Series. I have no idea what this means. Razor has never existed in the main DC universe before, but he refers to Hal as his friend and former ally, and he knows Killawog. This group has history, but when the hell did it happen? What else from the animated series is canon now? And how long could it possibly be before we see Aya make her debut as well? Especially since the Interceptor has been canon since way back in War of the Green Lanterns. I was just blown away. The experience I got from turning the page and getting this Razor reveal is exactly the feeling I didn't get to have from Red Lantern Sinestro last issue, so I'm very happy. I'm also nervous, because Razor was such an amazing character on that cartoon, and the fact that he never made the jump over to the mainline DC universe meant that nobody ever had the chance to misuse him. Razor's entire existence was one really great story arc that was confined to that TV show, and now who knows what could happen. Though I will say, the fact that Jeremy Adams is the one writing this gives me a lot of hope. If there's one thing he's absolutely great at, it's understanding the core of the characters he writes, so I think Razor is in good hands for the time being. The other bombshell on this page is confirmation of something that we've expected for a while. Killawog is dead. The Killawog that Hal's been interacting with ever since this series began was a full-color construct made by Hal. According to Hal, it's his fault that Killawog died. Apparently, next issue is going to finally tell us what happened on Corrigar, and I cannot wait to get some actual answers. This is turning into a pattern for Hal. First with Barry, now with Razor. All it takes is for a friend to talk to him, and both Hal's character and the story start making significant progress. We've also got part 3 of a backup story written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by David LaFuente, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by Rob Lay. I actually forgot to talk about part 2 last month during the review of Green Lantern number 5, so let me just touch on that briefly. The big takeaway here comes from the conversation between Corg and Nagaf, where it's revealed that Corg was placed in Nagaf's care 6 years ago by a woman who may or may not be Corg's mother. Also, Corg's name isn't Corg. Nagaf just started calling him that because he's from the planet Corrigar. Honestly, my favorite part of this whole chapter was when Corg broke into a municipal records building just to look at file photos of Sinestro. Most of the images he's looking at are recreations of covers, like the Sinestro Corps War Special number 1, Green Lantern number 4 from the New 52, Sinestro number 21, and the 3rd issue of this current Green Lantern series. There are a couple others that didn't jump out at me, but I'm sure there's something. Now, on to part 3. Corg crashes a back alley deal to sell stolen organs ready for transplant, and gets away with both the money and all of the organs. He's a lot happier than we've ever seen, and also a lot more capable, and throughout this whole encounter he comes off as way too precocious for my liking. All of a sudden, he's smug and can do anything without breaking a sweat, and on top of that, he happily returns all of the organs to the hospital they were stolen from. Now, I want to stress, Corg has never been explicitly portrayed as a bad kid. He's in a shitty situation and he steals to get by, so it's not impossible that he would do something to help people. But something this generous is such a stark contrast to the me against the world mentality he's had in every other chapter of this story, that I have a hard time believing he'd give all of these organs back without getting something in return. I suppose both his generosity and his high spirits come from the fact that he finally has everything he needs to get off this planet. Corg has spent the last year scraping together the parts he needs to build a small ship, and the cash he'd need to survive on his own. Now everything was finally ready. Now he could leave this planet behind, track down Sinestro, and live the life he's always dreamed of. So of course Nagaf shows up out of nowhere and blows the ship up with a bazooka. I'm pretty sure there's only one more chapter left in this series of backups. They already solicited the first issue of Sinister Sons, where it looks like Corg gets some much better Sinestro cosplay and starts hanging out with the son of General Zod. I'm not currently planning to cover this series monthly, but I will be keeping an eye on it just in case anything important happens, so maybe I'll do a video on that series once a few issues have come out. Either way, I'll be talking about the next installment of this backup story next time. So that's it! What an issue. Now I want to hear what you have to say about it. How do you feel about Razor showing up? Is it weird to see Hal make a giant anime robot? Are you invested in Corg's story? Tell me all about it in the comment section down below, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already, because this book is really starting to pick up steam and I want us to enjoy the ride together. So until next time, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan, we'll talk again soon.